Great. Well,
What's up, everybody? Anthony Carino
welcome
here.
to our
Contractor,
rendezvous,
designer, developer,
our rendezvous design
sometimes
panel.
television host.
Today we are
and we are
focused
back
on workplace
with
and
Neolith,
commercial
hosting
space.
another panel. This time we are talking about restaurant design and the effects that may or may not be coming because of the COVID-19 virus. So I got a great panel here with me today. We'll go around our virtual room here and introduce everybody and get a brief bio. Vanessa, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, guys. Thank you to Neolith for having me on. I'm Vanessa Leone, interior, and I specialize in high-end residential, commercial, and hospitality interiors.
Fantastic. Stephen, why don't we go to you?
Sure. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Bulgarelli. I am here in LA. I am currently Chief Culinary Officer for Dine Brands, which you may know us as Applebee's and IHOP. We currently have almost 4,000 restaurants, around 3,800 restaurants nationwide, and I am in charge of everything food. So if you can imagine anything that has to do with the menu, and menu design and recipes, that is what I do. I've been here now for 3 years.
Okay, fantastic. Jeffrey?
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Bruce Baker, and I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an architect, and our practice focuses on restaurant, hospitality, and high-end residential.
Very cool. All right, so we got everybody here. We are talking about hospitality in the form of restaurants, restaurant design, all things surrounding the COVID-19 virus. So I guess, you know, the easiest place to start is kind of with everybody's own personal work from home experiences. You know, are you going into the office? What's your staff doing? How has telecommuting been? We work in a tactile business. I mean, we need to touch and feel samples and materials and how things look and feel in different lights and in front of us, not through screens. How's the experience overall been since we've kind of been quarantining and not operating in our standard procedures? And by the way, anybody can jump in at any time. It's not. I'm not calling hands.
Okay, I guess I'll start. For us, obviously, this has been a challenge, I think, for any profession, right? But for us, as you were saying, and to your point, Anthony, everything is touch and feel. So for us, it's been a little difficult. So we have 2 locations, one in Chelsea in the city, and our second office is in New Jersey. So luckily for me, it's literally, I have a duplex, and it's the right side of my duplex. So it worked out for me because I literally had to just hop in the backyard through the outside entrance. So I've been working, I've been working since the shutdown. So I've been actually here with samples, and then my associates have been home, and they'll say, you know, pull these fabrics, let me know what you think. So library-wise for us, it's been a little easy because I've been in the office. But I have to say, presenting to clients, as much as you can present on a screen and hit to link and have a hyperlink connected to it, clients need to touch and feel the fabrics, because obviously on a screen, the color shift is different. So what I would do is package up little boxes and send them samples. And that's been a little helpful for us. And as soon as we were able to open up in phase 1, I was very cautious, and I was the first one out seeing clients again and going onto the sites, obviously with masks and gloves and the whole 9 yards. But we've all been very cognizant of being safe. But I think for our kind of business, it's very difficult for us to do anything virtually. And obviously all these Zooms and these webinars have been wonderful. But ultimately for us, we need to be out in the field and doing our site surveys and field measurements and with contractors and builders, because to your point, it is a tactile business.
Yeah, I mean, the job is the physical environment, so it gets super weird when all you can do is virtual.
Right.
Stephen, I mean, I know you're more on the food side of things, but obviously restaurants being shut down, your experience must be a difficult one.
You know, it's been challenging, but we've been making it work. So, you know, the corporate office is literally 5 minutes from me, so I'm able to go in if I need to. The corporate office is closed because in LA, all offices are now closed and cannot be open. What's happening with my team is half of the team is on furlough because I'm sure you're familiar with restaurants, have reduced the size of their menu. So we have literally gone, we're about 30% of what our menu was. Now we keep adding back to that. But our day-to-day challenge is always, like you said, touch and feel. I have to look, I have to approve. I am the final taster when it comes to all food products. And given the supply chain and supplier issues that we're having, I'm sure you guys read in the news with beef suppliers, pork suppliers, chicken suppliers, they're having a rough time. So our distribution channels are challenged immensely. So what that means is I'm having to get products sent to my house. I'm having my chefs get products sent to their house, and we're doing this at home. I've had to go into the office a couple of times to do a virtual presentation. If you haven't seen our ads on TV recently, it's the Welcome Back Carter ad for Applebee's that has our bowls. So hopefully you go out to Applebee's and try them. But a lot of that had to be done virtually. So I literally was talking to all of our restaurants and all of our principals and doing demos live in the kitchen with just myself and another chef. So it's been a huge challenge. We're making it work. But as you said, I have to touch, I have to taste everything. So it's not ideal, but we are allowed as chefs to go back into the kitchen if necessary. But I will tell you that it's very difficult for our restaurants, right? They are really having a hard time keeping up with laws and regulations. And
it's good like they change, right? Like it's a board game with ever changing rules, and we obviously understand why. I mean, it's public health, public safety, but it makes for a very difficult business environment.
Absolutely. We have a standard, which is great. All our restaurants, everyone has to wear a mask. And we now have 2 sanitation specialists that are just, their sole job every day is just to go and sanitize everything in the restaurant all day long. Tables, door handles, bathrooms, everything you can possibly imagine, that's what they're doing. So given the challenges that the restaurants are having, we're doing pretty well considering.
That's great. That's great. Jeff, just your thoughts. I mean, any major data points, with the telecommuting, Zoom conferences, the like, not being able to touch and feel samples, anything that you can share with us on that front?
Well, we're a practice of 4 people, but really only 2 of us are in the office and 2 are in the field more so. So 2 of us in the office are also married. So we still just go for our house to the office back and forth. So it's a good little cheat. And we're really, really fortunate that we have a very thorough library that we're constantly building. So I think the biggest thing that's changed for us is getting new materials, new samples that are custom done is taking a lot longer. So we had to stretch some of our projects out. And I think with the overall environment, most of our clients were able to stretch their projects out. So that.
No, I think we keep losing Jeff. So where I wanted to pivot to next from here is the current state of restaurants today, or not the current state, but the current state of their design, the way they are designed, the way we flow through them, the way we operate in them, both as guests and as designers. Do we think that it's going to stay the same with some small edits, or do we see massive design changes coming to restaurants as a whole?
So I gotta say, we also own a business. We own 2 restaurants in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, and it's been a challenge for us when we were able to open up. And unfortunately, I think it was July 2nd was going to be the first opening for indoor dining at, I think it was 20% capacity, or 15%. I don't remember the number. But we were geared up. We spaced out all our tables. We removed tables. We did everything. We were obviously very mindful of our patrons, and we do thermometer tests to all our employees that come in, along with frequent sanitizing, and had to change the gloves per customer that they see. So or I mean, paper goods, everything the shift is to change in such a way that it makes it very difficult for businesses to sustain. And that's why we're going to see unfortunately, a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, go under because they just can't, the overhead, they can't take the overhead as far as like rent is concerned, as far as what's the overall cost for paper goods. So there is going to be a big change, and I'm hoping that we come up with something that this automatically, just kind of goes away and disappears. But I think this is going to be in the back of everyone's head. What happens if, or what happens if it happens again in a couple of years? And I think design-wise, I think it may make it into, some of our design books and our architectural books for like the new policies that are going
Yeah, I think I think about it in terms of going out to eat, and then the kind of the role we play in helping to facilitate that. We're that additional sense to the smells and the tastes. You want to create an environment that people enjoy when they go out to eat, and now we're going to create not only an environment that you enjoy, but part of a guest safety is now going to be on the shoulders of the people designing these spaces, because. Right. The choice of material, hypoallergenic, perfect example, right? Everybody loves a good rustic reclaimed woods. I mean, these things have a lot of cracks and crevices and grains. They soak up, spills. I don't know that we can really design that way anymore in light of what's going on. We need surfaces that can be sterilized easily, but we don't want a sterile environment in terms of like the feel of the design. So right. That's kind of the way I've been thinking about it in terms of like, yes, spacing people out, sneeze guards. Do we go so far as to like, maybe put some type of swinging door on the end of banquettes?
Cocooning yourself.
What's that?
Cocooning yourself.
Yeah, right. Almost right. Like almost a private dining room within the room of the restaurant. Right. I don't know the answer, but it's something that I'm spending a lot of time thinking about right now.
Right.
Steve,
I will tell you.
Yeah.
I tell you that. Listen, you're spot on with surfaces. We have now disposable menus. And that's going to last for a short time because they're very expensive, right? I mean, you go through a ton of them. We're looking at laminated menus, but those all have to be sanitized. The tables are a big deal.
Hey, Steve, before you get too far away from menus, I want to give you a thought, because a buddy of mine in Jersey City is doing this. So there are now, I think it's Square that's doing it, but you can
put the QR codes.
Yeah, the QR code sticker on the table and then get the menu on your phone. I mean, I kind of like that.
Me too.
From an like when you get seated at a restaurant, you don't have to wait for someone to even bring you a menu. One, two, it's so much greener for the environment. And three, like when you're updating your menu, how easy, like if you have to 86 something on your menu, the next guest who scans that code doesn't even see that it's available. So you don't have to disappoint anybody anymore. Just delete it for the night.
Totally. That's how we have it, and it's worked really well.
Yeah. Sorry, Stephen. Go ahead. Finish your thought on services.
That's all right. No, we are in the process of doing that. If you know anything about Applebee's and IHOP, we are in the middle of the country. And unfortunately, a lot of our customer base are not familiar with QR codes. So that is being rolled out, and everyone is on board with that, because obviously it's a huge amount of money we spend on menus. If we could get to that, that would be a lifesaver. And we're in the process of doing it, but we got to make sure our guests are comfortable with that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great point. I mean, I know Vanessa and myself, like we're so focused right in our little area here on the East Coast. You don't, when you're a national, you don't, you got to think about so many other things that go along with what is seemingly a simple decision. So,
you have to also consider your demographics. It's an older demographic. It's going to be very hard for them to actually see something on a small phone and zoom into it. And, it's already enough.
My dad's got his font size turned up so high he gets one word per scroll.
Right. It'll take him a long time to navigate through that.
Yeah, we've been working on bring your own device for a long time, and we want to pay on your own device. We want to bring the menu on your own device. So hopefully this is going to jumpstart that process for everyone, because it saves us a tremendous amount of money and time. And it helps our servers as well, because now they can focus on delivering the guest experience without having to go to a terminal to punch in orders or to execute a check. So there's a lot there, but back to the surfaces. I mean, honest to God, the tables and everything that we use has got to be able to handle the sanitizer. When we first started this whole piece of this COVID, is we were using bleach sanitizer because that's all we could get. Well, when you use bleach sanitizer on a table, and have to leave it there for 30 seconds and then rinse it off, it does a huge number on the finish of the table.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it causes it to be sticky, right?
In a way, right? Coatings, anything like that. I totally understand that.
So that will be huge in the future. We're using plexiglass everywhere. I don't foresee.
It's a good thing we're doing this rendezvous with Neolith, because their surfaces can stand up to it.
Yeah, and plexiglass too. I think what we're going to see in the future is space outside and a line, because I can't have any of my guests form in the lobby. They have to wait outside, which is different than any other part of the business we've ever seen. So I think in the future, you will see more seating outside, not just for dining, but seating to wait to get to a table.
Yeah, sure. A cordoned off, like kind of like cocktail area or coffee area that you can be in your little social circle, be comfortable to wait, because you can't be waiting inside. I do have to say one thing though, as far as plexiglass, I get it. We're going to use it. We're going to make sure people are safe with it, but I'm going to do my damnedest to hide that stuff, because I don't want you to have to look at a piece of plexiglass in order to be safe. I don't know how that's going to work yet. Vanessa, if you've got ideas, believe me, I'm all ears. But like, I just hate seeing it. I hate seeing it.
I know.
I look to you guys to give us another solution.
Yeah.
So I guess the only way it can look somewhat nice if you hang it up in starting from the ceiling line, so it's not half divided in the space, because then you start looking at all the tops at your sight line, and I think that's what makes it kind of awkward. But if it's an installation from the ceiling down on pins, or on some kind of like fish robe, so it's like transparent and it looks like interesting partitions that are trimmed down in like a gold Schluter. I don't know. It's
I'm also of the opinion that plexi is being used because it's the fastest, most economical solution to an immediate problem.
Right.
As this thing starts to settle and we understand, is it coming back in the fall? Is it coming back next fall? Is this something we're going to be dealing with, or is this gone? If it is a continual year to year, we're dealing with this, we're going to start implementing glass and getting a more permanence to these types of fixtures. So they're whether it's a chicken wire glass or something that's got a little bit of a visual benefit to it.
Right. Whether it's like
stand the test of time.
Whether it's like a logo that's decaled on, double-sided,
acid
or
etched,
really cool
frosted.
Yeah,
totally.
We're bringing back the etch and the frosting back.
There we go. Little throwback. We got to do it though. Listen, we don't have a choice.
That's true.
All right. So let's go back to materials then. I mean, we're talking about the materials we need, but how are we going about selecting them right now? Right. I mean, yes, we all have our libraries, but the nature of being a designer is finding new materials, doing something no one's done before, trying out new things. Me personally, I know that, companies are being super diligent about shipping. My patience level has gone way up because as Stephen was mentioning, supply chain, that translates from the food all the way down to the materials that we rest that food on. But Vanessa, how are you going about sourcing new stuff and confirming, the look and feel of a material that you don't already have in the library?
So I always rely on the KBISs of the world, right? I always relied on the trade shows and, going into these trade shows and seeing what's new, what's next. And unfortunately, we don't have it. So I rely on my design community and Instagram and all these manufacturers that I love and are dear to me. Any new releases that they're doing a splash on, making sure that I'm top of it and making sure that I'm telling my rep, hey, can you send me those sample boxes, even if they're mini samples, just to kind of get the rollout going. So I can touch and feel it myself. And I know, for example, Neolith has been great. They actually just shipped me a box of some of their new innovative designs as far as like tops are concerned that could be used for siding, and I might do my pool, the coping in my pool over, and a new product that just came out. So I was fortunate enough to get that from them, and it was quite large. It was about this big. So even if they're tiny memo samples or chips, people are realizing that they need to send us stuff because they're investing, instead of investing their money on these trade shows, now they're investing their money on these samples. So it's kind of
sure. It's all shipping and
right.
sample packs as opposed. Yeah, Jeff, we were going back to materials, saying just wondering about how people are going about sourcing new stuff, not the stuff that's obviously already in your library, but how your interactions have been with various brands and material suppliers.
Definitely. And I also realized the worst thing for COVID right now is that I can't get a strong internet connection. So meetings are horrible. So yeah, so when it comes to materials, everyone we have strong relationships with and companies we tend to use their products more often are just sending us almost weekly boxes of things they know that we like, think we'd see. And that's been very helpful because I've had several times where we've been saved because the rep was thinking, oh, these are some new products that are in the aesthetics they tend to buy a lot. And then we've been writing more project briefs when we're thinking of sourcing up front and sending it out to reps to get more mail in. And that's actually been more efficient, but it hasn't been as fun. And sometimes now we have to think about what we're describing versus also finding things that inspire us. I like what Vanessa said about being on Instagram or things. I find myself now sitting down at night scrolling through more releases than normal.
Same.
To be able to get it, to see it and feel it.
Yeah, without a doubt. So in terms of like reaching out and writing more briefs, are you finding that you're getting any new work specifically because of COVID-19? Like a project that needs to be redone for whatever reason?
Yeah, I'm finding that everyone hates their home and wants to redo because they've been there for such a long time and realize how many things need to get redone. So we've gotten a ton of those calls.
So, but still premature on the restaurant front.
Yeah, even so, at the restaurant, so all my restaurants, so I've done over a dozen restaurants, and the local ones are like, okay, what do we need to do? I've stocked outdoor furniture galore. Interior wise, they wanted me to come up with some cool partitions, and it's hard to do on booths because you have to sort of angle it, and that's been a little bit of a challenge. And I think floor plan.
So it's been more like quick fix work and outdoor furniture so that they can get the seating that they need.
Yep, exactly.
Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, and I'm going to back up too because there's something I want to comment on. Like when we were talking the user experience, which is one of the things that we're most assessing from like how do you architecturally go through the space, the materials, the lighting. In the fine dining, which is mostly what we do, we've had a lot of difficulty because you really can't just go to the QR code or even have a paper menu and have the same experience when there's something nicely done for the evening on parchment that's been scented and is in a leather binder.
Sure.
And, the chemicals are destroying when they're trying to clean some of these leather binders and things. So we're trying to get creative with how do we create a user experience that's similar, but it's really, really having the impact there.
We're going to phone tablet or...
Yeah, because I think sometimes that you lose a certain intimacy when it goes digital.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All ages when you want that kind of experience. And actually, just a few weeks ago, personally, I went down to Charleston, South Carolina. It was about 5 hours from here, and they're known for their dining community.
Yeah,
it was very, very different because they did a good job there. In the historic district, every restaurant you went to, you had to have a reservation. They told you not to touch the door. They greeted you, took your temperature, made sure you had a mat on, and they all had these great little boutique hand sanitizers. Distilleries are so They always had their own brand and scent. So then you had to use hand sanitizer. So they're really kind of dictating, but I think it's important.
So it kind of, I mean, they've kind of pivoted their experience, right? Like that's really cool in a way. I mean, it's funny too, because you think in the terms of what you design the most, and I don't design really in the fine dining space. So to me, a QR code is a really quick fix. It's not something that someone frequenting the style of restaurant I design in is going to be bothered by it, but it's a really great point that each of these segments, I mean, much like Stephen was saying, like QR codes and the demographic, it also works for the style of restaurant that you're designing for as well.
Experience design down to like where they would normally give you maybe like a taste when you came in and a towel with a lemon. They gave a little, but it was beautifully branded, nicely scented. That was a very powerful impact. So we're trying to look at those things to assist how to create the ambiance going in those settings.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And I'm sure that's going to be a hell of a challenge. I mean, the touch and feel is the entire problem right now. So that experience is going to be key to keeping that fine dining feeling nice and fine. Okay, let's see. Where else was I?
Myself. So what else have I missed?
Not end of pretty much every question, and I've tried to redirect them back to you. So I think we've got thoughts on you from just about everything. We did material selection. You heard my question about like any thoughts on how restaurant. You know, there's safety aspects and distancing and the kind of the types of materials that can stand up to rigorous cleaning and whatnot. So I had asked about, I don't know if I got any thoughts from you on that particular question, if you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think again that it's all about materials. I think especially also back to what we do in fine dining, we find that we tend to have a lot more fabric partitions, highly upholstered chairs that aren't necessarily easily cleanable.
Sure.
What we do, because we still actually have some silk velvets, and there's good engineered ones, and that's going to have to change if it's long term because of ability. And so I think maybe we just have to use darker vinyls and darker lighting and more pin pit lighting, because I think there's ways to still create intimacy. For us, it's
really good faux leather.
I know. Push them more up.
Yeah. I was saying when you got booted off was, look, I know we need plexiglass, but I'm going to do my damnedest to hide it because it hurts my soul.
Glass partitions with all kinds of things embedded in the glass. That one.
That Vanessa and I were saying as well. Yeah. So Stephen, do you see, I would imagine that, with Up and the Applebee's, you guys, I guess for lack of a better term, you have like a kit of parts, right? Like you have what's spec'd for these restaurants. Obviously, layout changes a bit depending on the space that gets rented or leased or whatever. But are you guys as a company revisiting what you're using? Or do you have like a design firm engaged to kind of set you up with new materials? How are you approaching that? I mean, I couldn't even imagine the total number of locations you have through the country. That is not a small lift at all to try and get that to where it needs to be. You're on mute, buddy. Oh, no, you weren't.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Okay, sorry guys. I got these new headphones that are very complicated. And if you touch, like, it has like all these buttons that you can touch, and I'm like, oh my God, if I touch it. Anyway, it's a great question. We are in a unique situation. Our business is all franchisee owned. We own a very small amount of restaurants. So our franchisees are responsible for their restaurants themselves. So they are the ones that have to go out and source the products to get their restaurants up to speed. mostly what's happening is, we're at about 50% capacity at the most. So if you social distance that way, that helps out a lot. They are using plexiglass in between booths because they have to. But that's the biggest change that we see. And it's the capacity. Some are 25%, right? So it varies state by state. Our off-premise business is huge because more people are getting DoorDash and Grubhub and all of that.
Sure.
But as far as sourcing products, our company doesn't do that because we're all franchised owned, which is unlike most companies. I've worked for Brinker, which was Chili's, and I've worked for Fridays, and I've
Yeah,
worked
that's
for
interesting.
O'Charley's. Those all have design teams that actually will go in and do this. We have a designer that sets up a restaurant as it would be freestanding. But as far as the upkeep and whatnot, that is up to the franchisees with our guidelines and
Sure.
specifications.
Sure. So, do you imagine that you guys are going to be putting out new specs and guidelines based on all of this, or
I know we have
like a suggested materials?
We have, but again, it will be left up to the franchisees because it's not a one size fits all.
Right.
Each restaurant is completely different. We have many different prototypes, and then we can't dictate exactly what brand they would use. We will give them guidelines on saying, here's our standard, and this is what you have to do. And then they're responsible for actually going and purchasing and installing.
Gotcha. So I'm going to ask the overarching question, and this is from experience, food, design. I mean, do we think that the restaurant business is changed forever in terms of capacity, the closeness that people can sit, how they're going to interact with staff, like the entire experience of going out to eat? Do we think this is something that we're going to be redesigning, reworking from the ground up, or do we think that this is generally a blip until we get a handle on COVID as a virus and its frequency and its return rate and where it's going to land, and then things kind of start to go back to the way they were?
Go ahead.
No, Vanessa, please go.
If I had to predict, I think it's going to be more of a blip. I think as a culture, we're very forgetful. And I think it'll be back to business as usual when we can get back to business as usual. So, unless this gets worse, and obviously the pressure's on for businesses to make significant shifts and changes, but that also means that the landlords and the franchisees and the corporations also have to make a shift, because sustaining this is very difficult, and you can't operate and function a restaurant at 20% capacity. It just doesn't work. The margins are too small in restaurants. So I feel like hopefully, like, we all forget this will be a thing of the past, and there'll be some kind of magic potion or vaccination or something that would come to the forefront, and everybody will be more inclined to go out and not be as scared to sit next to people.
Yeah, so I am constantly, obviously, keeping up the industry. I sit on many boards, Nations Restaurant Association. So I hate saying the NRA because people get confused. This is not the National Rifle Association, it's the National Restaurant Association. But I agree. People are always going to want to connect, right? That's who we are. We're human beings. Now, what I will add is that there is going to be a change in the amount of restaurants we have, right? I have so many restaurants across the country. That will change. We won't be as big as we have been because a lot more people are taking advantage of dining at home. And if you're like me, I love to eat out, and I haven't been able to because in LA restaurants are closed. So I use DoorDash like twice a week, and it's fantastic. It's like, how did this not exist before? Right? So if you're in the mood for whatever, you can get it. And what I foresee in the future is in dense populations such as big cities in LA and New York, you're going to see less chains and you're going to see more satellite kitchens. We're already in the process of doing that, which is just to go. So our guests can still get our food, but they won't have the restaurant. It'll be a ghost kitchen is what we're calling them right now.
You're not getting with retail level rents, so you can put yourself in a more economical location to service those needs.
That is absolutely correct. Because right now, if you think about it, there's an over penetration of restaurants around the country. I mean, there's just so many. And I think, unfortunately, we're going to lose a lot. I know I hear it every day on the restaurants that are going out of business. But again, we'll never stop going out to eat. That is something that we as humans need to connect with family and friends, and that experience won't go away. I do think you'll see a number of restaurants closing and the amount of restaurants, dwindling.
Gotcha. Jeff?
So, yeah, I agree. I think that, also if you look at history, different mass diseases that are very unfortunate, people go back to normal because we want interaction, want closeness, want experiences. But I think when I look at this as an architect standpoint, what I think will probably happen that will have a longer effect is like
oh no.
I think health codes. You want me to repeat a little bit?
Go back. You froze again.
I think the thing that's going to change the most right now in restaurant design is I think health codes are going to drive more needs for materials that can be cleaned more easily. Because you always see when there's a massive fire or if there's a series of lawsuits, there's a sound issue, it impacts code. So I think that the long-term effect's not going to be density, a lot of things with design, but I think it is going to be probably codes that requires to be more creative to create the environments we want, but to have them constantly more cleanable. I think that one will probably stay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so what I extrapolate from that is that, design changes we're making today for people to keep guests safe are more on the temporary front, sneeze guards and the like. But on the more permanent front, we're going from veneer tables to a stone top to something that can eating of cleaning after cleaning after cleaning to the level that is now required.
A non-porous material.
Those are the more permanent. The more permanent just stick around.
But and I'll put other one thing that I think is interesting. So like 15 years ago, I was in healthcare design, and it's like, oh, I got to do a healthcare interior. They were very sterile looking. When you look at hospitals, pediatrics, any kind of hospital, outpatient surgery, even a doctor's office today, dental office, think about how much more beautiful they look. They learn from the hospitality industry. So, and now you almost feel like you're at a spa. And psychologically, like our designs then help people have lower blood pressure. They're already in a scared position, but they're in a calmer environment. So that's where something's evolved in a powerful way, makes better environments. So I don't think it's devastating for the design community. We're just kind of shifting.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's I think it challenges us to do better, different work, but there's nothing that says that to be clean, it needs to look sterile. And I think I said that when you got kicked off at one point, but bears repeating because I'm a big believer in it. Yeah, point well made, point taken. Awesome, guys. Thank you all. Really appreciate everybody taking so much time out of your busy schedules. Big thank you to Neolith for putting this together. I think it's super important that we're all having these conversations, giving each other things to think about, challenging each other, sharing thoughts and processes, best practices in these uncharted waters. So big thanks to Neolith for putting it together. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy out there. And we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye, Steve. Bye, Jeff.
Awesome.
Bye. Thank you.